And welcome to the Wakanda podcast.
Woof, woof, woof.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Welcome everyone to the podcast, the Shitlord Preachers podcast. This is episode 14 of our regular weekly podcast that we do on Thursdays, 11 o'clock Central Time. I am Amos Joseph, joined today by Brook Potter, my co-host from London in the UK. Me, myself, being in Minnesota in the United States. Basically, the podcast is Brooke and I have known each other a few years as ministers, and basically we kind of saw a lot of the stuff that happened in religion that we kind of tried to get out of, basically started popping up again in politics, especially in today's polarized climate. Yeah. What's that?
At least.
Exactly.
Putting it mildly.
Exactly. Yeah, welcome everyone to joining in or watching later on. We're still kind of trying to gather a bit of an audience here, but we're definitely moving towards means to get more exposure, have some guests, which we'll talk about as well. But yeah, like I said, my name is Amos Joseph. I am a 25-year-old guy here in Minnesota and joined by Brook Potter. Introduce yourself, Brook.
Oh, thank you, Amos. Good to see you, my friend. So as my friend said, I am Brook Potter, originally from the Twin Island Nation in the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago. And I moved out here to the UK back in 2017, started the process in 2016. And like you said, we used to be itinerant ministers. We used to travel around, and not the most popular of guys, because a lot of traditional religion and popular religion didn't quite fancy a lot of the things that we had to say. But a lot of the same kind of cognitive dissonance and fallacies, genetic fallacies, and other things that we experience in that arena, we just saw kind of creeping into the society as a whole. And I know for myself, I've been on the front lines arguing different points, and I just felt that this, dealing with the social and political upheaval was a much bigger battle, more important, affecting more people. And I really, as a result, Amos and myself shifted our focus to try and tackle a lot of these kind of social and political issues. So that's how we ended up here on the Shitlord Preachers podcast. I think this is episode 14, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we are. We are going to be talking about the men on Mars and the strippers at funerals.
Come on. I posted that comment, and my girlfriend Holly, she was like, I bet you want strippers at your funeral, right? I was like, I said, my funeral is open for anybody to attend. I don't need them to perform.
Exactly. Just a quick little thing on for those of you who may be wondering where. I mean, first off, the name Shitlord Preachers, obviously, preachers being that we used to be preachers. The term shitlord is basically connected to the word shit posting. It's basically people that post memes, post stuff, comments and stuff, kind of in a more of a trolling manner. And shitlords are basically people who, I guess you could say, are dabble in it. Yeah, they're lords of shit posting, if you want to call that. So I felt the name was since a lot of people kind of have definitely would consider me, at least, to be somewhat of a shitlord, because I do try to be a little more trolling in the way I post and comment on political issues to make a point while also just being a troll. So being a shitlord and a preacher, well, shitlord preachers, plus with I'd say the name definitely resonates with. You had the drunken peasants. You have the YouTube saints. There's a lot of these sort of crossovers of popular culture and religious terminology. So,
So what you're saying is, we're actually not that original.
It is a name that is going to stick. I firmly believe that. I will reach out to people that, if they want to call themselves the Kakistani gurus or stuff like that.
Yes. fellow Kekistanis. Lots of them out there, man. They should all be big fans.
Definitely. Yeah, one thing I wanted to, I guess we're going to talk about real quick, hopefully real quick. Wakanda, or as I like to name it, the most woke country in the world, therefore it should be called Wakanda. Um,
Oh, I see what you did there.
exactly.
Well, I think it's evident that we both saw the movie rather recently, given our intro.
Yeah, I can't do that seriously. I just it feels, I feel too racist,
It's all that cultural appropriation from comic books written by
Yeah,
two Jewish guys.
exactly. Produced in America. Ooh.
Ooh, yeah, come on.
Colonists.
Put out by Disney, a big rat.
So, what did you think of the movie, Brooke? Let's start with you because you've heard a lot
It
of my
was,
thoughts on
yeah.
it.
I mean, well, as you say, the people haven't heard also. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't think it was great. I think it played out very much as I expected. For a movie to be great, it really has to surprise me. There was nothing in it that really kind of took me by surprise. The graphics were okay. I think there were a couple CGI parts where I was kind of like, you could have done better with that. Um, Ironically, I quite like the villain. Now, I guess we should give a spoiler alert. I actually thought the villain was had overcome much more and is a lot more strong. Well, I guess it was stronger than the actual king. What's his name?
T'Challa.
T'Challa.
Yeah.
T'Challa, right. In fact, in a lot of ways, I actually thought that the villain was actually the better character. And, apart from his genocidal leanings and so forth, he might have actually been, exactly the kick in the ass that Wakanda needed. In fact, he's very much, as I say, he's the shake up to what they've been doing, the kind of complacency
Right.
and stuff like that, the
Right.
isolationism. So I quite kind of resonated with him, and I was actually quite disappointed the way he went out and stuff like that. It was that. But overall, the movie was very entertaining. A couple of disappointing things as well. Like there was a whole scene where the Black Panther in his full getup is like riding this car that his sister is controlling from Wakanda remotely. And I'm kind of like, didn't we see in the Winter Soldier where this guy could like run 90 miles an hour chasing,
Exactly.
Bucky Barnes on a bum motorcycle? It's like I don't know, they weren't consistent. Let's just say that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it.
Right.
I was disappointed we didn't have any African dancers before the movie, and we didn't get anybody dressing up. I was looking forward to seeing some, coming to America paraphernalia and
I
Pluto Nash and this sort of thing.
I was watching it at a midnight showing, and it was just me and like a handful of other white people. So, and me being kind of on the outskirts of I'm not near any cities. There isn't really, if I went into like a theater in the cities, maybe I'd see more. But excuse me. I personally thought it was pretty good. I think any Marvel movie is definitely like has a certain threshold of sort of the eye candy, the sort of explode the action and all that they have to meet to sort of be a good Marvel movie. Like I don't feel there's really any boring Marvel movie. I mean, if you really want to like look at what's really, really boring, I'd say like the closest thing to like a boring movie would have been like Iron Man 3. But then there was a
Iron Man
reason.
3.
But there was a reason for that because it was a lot of character development, sort of the
Right.
post Avengers, Tony Stark freaking out, and then at the very very end, there's like an overload of action to kind of try to compensate. I
Right.
thought. Um, so in terms of Marvel movies that try to keep their characters like more just action packed, like yeah, Black Panther kind of meets that. I kind of like the graphics of how they presented Wakanda. Um, we could talk about the whole political thing, but that's a whole nother issue. It definitely had plenty of commentary that I thought was good. It didn't they didn't try to push any specific narratives to say like we're for this or against this. I mean that you had a clash. Would you agree you had a different clash?
Sure.
You had like you said this other guy, the villain had one ideology that probably a lot of people in that a good amount of people, not saying a majority, but a good amount of people would agree with. At least deep down would have certain leanings in that way. Not to the degree he was,
Sure.
but they kind of see like, oh, that's strong. But in the end, they kind of had a balance. Kind of balanced it out like Wakanda is still Wakanda, but things are still different. They didn't sacrifice their way of life, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that could be said about the political and social construct of Wakanda that is just it's very unlikely. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
I mean, the closest thing you could probably get to a Wakanda in terms of the isolationist, protectionist regime would probably be feudal Japan, or possibly I think China to a certain extent, before I think the Poppy Wars, the Opium Wars, and stuff like that. And this is kind of like, we're just going to lock ourselves off and we're just going to mind our own business. And countries tend to end up poorer as a result of that kind of isolation.
Wakanda had literally a mountain of vibranium.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've got a magic metal that it gives you superhuman strength, and it allows you to transcend to the afterlife, and talk to the ancestors, and they can power everything from it, and it's indestructible and all. I mean, okay, yes, having magic in your kingdom definitely would help.
Yeah,
but then it's also a downfall. Like this is something people don't understand. Like I was watching it, and what came to mind. I was just hearing my economics professor in the background talking about the resource paradox, which is when a country is overwhelmingly supplied with one particular asset, whether it's oil like Saudi Arabia, diamonds coming out of Uganda, or whatever the case might be. All of the resources and all of the tech and everything kind of blossoms in that one area, and everything else suffers. So in Saudi Arabia, for instance, where there's a lot of oil, yes, those who are involved in oil are doing very well, very, very well. But then the poverty in every other aspect is just astronomical because nothing else has developed in the economy. Unlike the US, which has multiple industries, agriculture and manufacturing technology and all these other things. Just what ends up happening is the politicians grip that one resource, they exploit it with corruption, and it just causes the collapse of a country.
And Wakanda was kind of a micronation, though, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, Kuwait is the same thing. Kuwait is a very small country in the Arab Emirates, and very rich. Everybody who's involved in oil is very rich, and the poverty of everybody else is the same thing. It doesn't trickle down.
But this is the magical land of Wakanda.
Yeah. Well, if you have magic helps. I'm sure magic does help.
I wonder, would you say that Wakanda is sort of the black equivalent of Asgard?
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's not a lore, right? Asgard is based on Norse mythology. So Wakanda not so much, because it actually doesn't have any roots in any kind of mythology. At least none that I've heard of. I don't actually think there's any kind of substantial anything to the story of Wakanda. It's just Jack Kirby and Stan Lee just created it.
Right.
So I don't think there is in that respect it's not a lore. But it is a fantastic depiction of Afrofuturism that they would like to.
Well, we've talked about too, if there was a nation that was literally cut off from the rest of Africa with this sort of magic metal since the beginning of time, would they achieve that? Maybe.
No, they wouldn't. And I'll tell you straight up. No, of course not. Because even like, how do I put this? Even in South Africa, when the little kids were playing around with the diamonds that were basically like big as baseballs. They didn't know what any of this stuff was for hundreds of thousands of years, right? It
Oh,
was,
right.
I mean, there's been gold, there's been all of this other stuff, and
I
you
guess,
cannot
yeah,
find,
because
you
vibranium.
cannot find this. The point, like, you could go all throughout sub-Saharan Africa, and you will not find any kind of infrastructure, anything that has been built more than 100 years old. Like I'm out here in London, right? And we have buildings here that go back to like 1200 AD, right? Like 800 and 900 year old buildings, right? So when London was founded, it's thousands of years ago, and you could find the remains of the Romans and all this other stuff. You can't find anything like that old in the continent of Africa, right? It
I
wasn't until
guess
1490 something before Columbus even left Europe to know that there was a continent. So Europeans hadn't even showed up, and nothing developed in the continent of Africa.
right, right. Now, I guess if you look at it this way too, um, so you remember Captain America, how when he found his shield, when he was like testing out the different shields, he finds the one that's made out of vibranium, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's like so little in the world, you can't find it this much."
Yeah.
And it's like that was World War II. So if no one knew, if only like the top level of the U.S. government only knew about, only had procured enough vibranium to make a shield or two in World
Yeah.
War II, I guess how were they exactly selling this vibranium to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, the plot hole of Claw selling the vibranium, I think it was like back in the 60s, or plotting to sell it to him back
Oh,
in the
this
80s.
so that piece of vibranium, I don't know if you remember how old it was. It was like a 16th century vibranium like axe or something.
Yeah, stolen from Wakanda.
Right.
Yeah. Stolen by who? Right? The Europeans didn't show up until like a couple of years later, right? Um, so I mean, it's an interesting plot point, but the I mean, just history will tell you that there is no ancient city. As I say, you could trace the roots of London, right? You could trace the city of Cambridge, right? The Aztecs with the Mayans. You could go to build the Great Wall of China. All of these things that were built like hundreds of years ago, there is nothing like that in on the continent of Africa. Now, yes, they got the Zulus and the great tribes and the histories, but they were tent dwellers. They, as I say, they didn't even know what these resources were. And the
Right.
closest thing on the continent of Africa that would be like that is Ethiopia. Ethiopia was never colonized. I think it was invaded by the French or the Dutch for like 6 days or something like that. A couple, But yeah, Ethiopia, even the nation of Haiti, which is in the Caribbean, is 400 years since they threw off colonial rule of the French, and it's the poorest nation, well, second poorest next to Afghanistan on the planet. It's the poorest in the Western Hemisphere. So I mean, I don't know what to say, man. It is what it
Flying
is.
ships, Brooke.
Yeah, yeah, like my spaceships and shit, man.
Why
It's
aren't there
tough. It's
Wakandans
a
on the
tough
moon
thing.
yet?
Well, I mean, that would have been the logical thing. Is like, if you could do all of this, why are you still on the Earth? Like, you should have packed up and gone, right? I think that actually speaks to a bit of the theology as well. It's like they're very comfortable as they are, and it's actually it's a great. Well, I don't know if it's a great, but it's an indictment against the Wakandan culture that they obviously did not help out in world affairs. Even when the aliens were attacking in the MCU in New York, I mean, obviously they didn't develop the characters and stuff like that, but as far as we know, Wakanda didn't do anything when suddenly the Earth is under threat from Loki and his
Eh,
ilk. You
it's only
know,
New York though. I mean,
yeah, small
you
plot
know,
hole, man. Forget
yeah.
that.
I mean, it's the colonizers' headquarters.
Yeah, yeah. It's and so I mean, you think about the destitute of the continent of Africa, and as I say, they did nothing. And yeah, it's an interesting plot. I mean, if the laws of economics and other things actually applied to the nation of Wakanda, they'd probably be dirt poor. And like even the Killmonger's assertion, which is wrong, that if all of the African descendants just had access to vibranium, it would just they'd just dominate and everything would be great. They seem to forget in the beginning of the movie that the 5 tribes were fighting over the vibranium, right? So even when they had access to vibranium, there wasn't peace, right? They were against each other until the first Black Panther had his vision, and they all decided to submit to the rule of the first king of Wakanda. But just having access to the vibranium did not suddenly bring great enlightenment and peace to these tribes. They were actually warring. So it's the same premise. If you suddenly arm all of these people around the world with vibranium, you think they're just gonna throw off the white yoke or the colonial yoke? You don't think they're gonna attack each other? You think all of the genocidal combat we've seen in Africa between African tribes, you think that just disappears, right?
Right. But I think that's enough wokeness for one talk.
Yeah, that's a lot of woke. But it was a good movie, and as I say, I'm not holding anything against anybody in Trinidad. A lot of people are showing up in the costumes and stuff like that. I think that's pretty great. But it is a movie, people. Let's not get carried away.
Speaking of costumes showing up to the movie, didn't you have something on that?
Oh yeah, I did. Let me see if I could actually get this thing to pull up.
Someone went to a movie and tried to sneak in.
Yeah. Let me see if I could pull it up here. How do I share?
Screen share.
I just thought that. Yeah, application window. I just thought this was so funny. Tell me if you could see that.
Yep.
All right. Present to everyone. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how many people here might be a fan of BoJack Horseman, but there's actually at the bottom of this. Let me show you. In BoJack Horseman, there is this character, right? Which is basically 2 kids, one on top of the other. One has got a fake arm and a broom as a hand, and this character, I can't remember what they call it. Is it person? Adult person or whatever, actually ends up in a relationship with one of the other characters who is an adult, and she's none the wiser. But nonetheless, apparently these 2 kids dressed as a really, really, really tall man failed to get into Black Panther. So it's these 2 kids who want to see the movie. They didn't want to spend the money, as you see here. 2 kids who wanted to see the new hit movie Black Panther didn't want to shell out the cash for a pair of tickets. So they decided to go as one guy.
One really tall guy.
I mean, I think they've got the picture. Like, this is the video. I can't show the video because they wouldn't get the. But I mean, just to show the size, as I say, he's like 9 feet tall versus like everyone else around him. And I mean, I'll put this link in the description below. There's actually what happens when he goes up to the counter. I just thought this was the funniest thing I'd seen in a long time, and quite creative. Quite. I've never wanted to save money that badly. But I don't think anybody could have taken my weight anyway. But it was a nice idea.
Well, you would be the bottom guy, of course.
Yeah, I'll have to be the bottom guy. Dang. But yeah, it was that was very clever. It's unfortunate they didn't get in. They come to the counter and they're like, you got to get down, and the kid's like, get down from what?
But everyone was recording and shooting, taking pictures of this, because everyone at least has a sense of humor about it. Because you don't really see people do that.
No, it was very, very. I mean, we've always seen it done in like movies and stuff like that, cartoons especially. That's the first time I've ever seen it done in real life. And like I say, BoJack Horseman, there is a character. I can't remember what the 2 kids are called. Has this adult relationship with one of the characters. I mean, he's got a fucking broom for a hand, and like nobody could figure out what's going on.
Well, in BoJack Horseman, they're all animals, aren't they? So they're not the smartest.
But it's Yeah, for those who don't know, it's a Netflix original series. So there's animals and people. The relationship is with an adult cat that walks around. It's a person, just as a cat. Um, I can't remember. I wish I could remember what the character was called. And he's like, "So what do you do?" "I do business. You know, I do lots of business." It's like, oh, it's very funny, very very funny.
So, excuse me. What was the other thing? Oh, so everyone's kind of heard about kind of talked about what was it called, the Delta Heavy rocket or something. SpaceX launched their rocket into space with the Tesla on it. Everyone kind of went nuts because
Right.
they thought it was hilarious. I think someone was saying even like that car has traveled more distance than any car ever has ever in the time
Probably. I mean, I don't know how far out it is.
but so people know about Elon Musk and his aspirations for, well, I shouldn't say his goals for his companies like Tesla and SpaceX to really push the boundaries of just innovation. And one of the big things is Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, I've heard different thoughts on it. Do we really need to go to Mars? Do we is it really that And even I've heard for people who don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the world renowned astrophysicist, he kind of thought his theory at one point was, well, private enterprise is not going to go to space unless there's some money to be gained. And then it's like, well,
Right.
yeah, Elon Musk is trying to trying to beat NASA to go to Mars. I don't know if there's much financial gain for that. I mean, there could be some sort of confidence in the company and the stock. I don't know. But and you and I have talked about this, Brooke. It's like, well, a lot of his money comes through contracts with the government. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
He's milking.
right. The only way I guess he would really have to explore like asteroid mining to find the huge reserves of palladium and platinum in space. I mean, that's one thing he could go for.
Sure.
I mean, then again, all that flooding into the market would change the price, but he's still getting it. So, I mean, he can make money if he really wanted to. If he really wants to push for space stuff, he could use that to fund other little projects he wants to do, like going to Mars. But besides the point, so Elon is sort of this hero to really, he doesn't really have any specific political leanings, to my knowledge, at least. At least he doesn't talk about it. I mean, there's probably things that would point him in a direction of, because of the Tesla vehicles, maybe there's some to be said that maybe he's left leaning because he's more of an environmentalist, stuff like that. But the thing that popped up on my Twitter was apparently the idea of going to Mars. I'm going to pull up this article. Is an extension of patriarchy.
Marvelous.
So,
oh,
let's take a look at this. Let's just scroll back up here. So yeah, there was that picture of the car with that was actually a robot. I thought that was like a person they put up there. That's a robot.
Yeah, of course. He wasn't bringing it back. He wasn't bringing anyone back.
right. Marcy Bianco, the patriarchal race to colonize Mars is just another example of male entitlement. This is on NBC News, by the way.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
The presumed right to use and abuse something and then walk away to conquer something new is a hallmark of See, since we're talking about colonists, colonialism. So this was published yesterday, like fucking 3 a.m. So I don't know. I mean, nothing better to do. But oh yeah, so here's the picture of his Tesla Roadster in space, and there's Earth, and then as the caption says, "Houston, we have a problem, and it's the patriarchy."
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What does the midlife crisis look like in the 21st century? frittering away your life savings on a red sports car is so last century. Instead, today's man who's grappling with the limitations of his mortality spends $90 million on a rocket to launch a $100,000 electric car helmed by a robot by the name of Starman into space.
There you go.
How much is she just driving it in there, like, and twisting just to be like, oh, men and their sports car, space and robots, and we want a new space race, said Elon Musk in a press conference shortly after the launch of his company's Falcon Heavy rocket. Oh, that's right, not Delta Heavy. Delta Heavy's another thing. Falcon Heavy rocket and his Tesla Roadster into space earlier in February. Like a child, he gleefully continued, space races are exciting. Ooh. He is showing his male entitlement there.
Right, clearly.
And Musk isn't the only billionaire looking to enter in the space race. Amazon's Jeff Bezos has his private aerospace company, Blue Origin, while Virgin's Richard Branson, a prominent adventurer, created Virgin Galactic back in 2004. So see, all these men wanting to go into space.
Yeah, dicks with money. It's the worst, man.
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy.
These men, particularly Musk, are not only heavily invested in who can get the rocket into space first, but in colonizing Mars. The desire to colonize, to have unquestioned, unchallenged, and automatic access to something, to any type of body, and to use it at will. Oh my gosh. I thought I skimmed through it enough, but no, I found this part, is a patriarchal one. So basically what they're saying is in the coming decades, we're going to have a hashtag Me Too about Mars.
About Mars. How the colonizers have violated the planet.
Jesus fucking Christ. What path are we going down here, Brooke?
I mean, this is literally like anti-human development, you know, which is basically what feminism wants, right? It wants to destroy civilization, right? So that's very much in line with, you know, what we've come to expect.
Indeed, there's no ethical consideration among these billionaires about whether this should be done. Rather, the conversation is when it will be done, because in the eyes of these intrepid explorers, this is the only way to save humanity. Well, I mean, yeah. It is the same instinctual and cultural force that teaches men that everything and everyone in their line of vision is theirs for the taking. You know, just like walking up to a woman and grabbing her by the pussy. They said it. They did it.
Oh my god.
It's there, so just grab it because you can. Oh my gosh.
If only it was that easy, wasn't it?
NBC News opinion piece on how colonizing Mars is the same as grabbing a woman by the pussy. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and who's the other guy again? Oh, and Richard Branson are all Donald Trumps in space.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna grab Mars by the pussy. There we go.
Exactly. I want to be clear. I think we should be a multi-planet species, not a single planet species on another planet. So Musk said this in a 2015 interview. I've heard this. He said basically, if mankind wants to survive, we need to be on multiple planets, because if anything happens to any one of our planets, we have other planets of humans. You know, we kind of need a backup plan in case something happens, because, you know, asteroids, or if you want to believe in global warming, earth-shattering earthquakes that can happen. Like there's some nasty stuff that can happen that maybe aren't necessary, that can always happen on the Earth, and we need to go somewhere else or have people that can continue on without us.
Correct.
So,
survival-wise, it makes a lot of sense.
Right. I mean, sci-fi has been talking about this for years, when no one ever said that was some sort of patriarchy going on there. I mean, Star Trek is the SJW's dream of just, you know, equality and space and aliens and all this, you know.
Only from Voyager because there's a woman at the helm. You know, everything before that is just patriarchy.
Well, DS9 was a black guy,
Oh yeah, Deep Space Nine. I forgot about that.
and Picard
How
was
racist
bald
of
and
me.
old, so he defies ageism and hairism, I guess. Um,
Right, right.
what kind of future do you want to have? Oh, do you have a future where we are forever confined to one planet, or one where we are in many planets? So these are all valid things that he's saying in this interview he had. So
I would agree.
this Columbusing attitude, a strident business acumen laced with an imperialist ethos, comes with an air of benevolence. Musk doesn't want to just colonize Mars to satisfy his ego. No. He wants to colonize Mars to help his fellow humans, make him sound like he's a shitty person because he has an ethos.
Right.
I really think there are two fundamental paths for humans. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and some eventual extinction event that wipes us out. Yeah, that could very possibly happen. In this way,
Sure.
colonizing Mars is a collective life insurance policy. Although considering the last 500 years of colonization as a planet alone, one could wonder who lives, according to Musk and other rich white men like himself, are worth being insured. Really?
Oh,
So now,
for God's
because he
sake.
wants to put people on Mars, now they're going to play the capitalist rich white men as evil because now Musk gets to choose who goes to Mars and who doesn't. No, he wants to start a colony there, and eventually it's going to be cheap enough that everyone goes there. I wouldn't mind having
Yeah,
a vacation on
eventually.
Mars in my lifetime.
Sure.
But again, this impulse to enter the space race isn't simply the embodiment of the American spirit of invention or forward-thinking entrepreneurship. Neither is it driven by some kind of old nationalist Cold War fervor, inspired the creation of America's space program in the 1950s. Rather, it's the impulse to colonize land, to colonize people. Here's the thing: we don't know if there are people on Mars.
Right.
Are there people on Mars? And now we may soon be technologically capable of doing so. Colonizing space has its origins in gendered power structures. Oh, jeez.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Entitlement to power, control, and domination and ownership, the presumed right to use and abuse something, then walk away to conquer and colonize something new. Let's see.
My God.
Oh, and then here's like a picture of them like simulating being on Mars. So yeah, it just goes on, and oh, here we go. The raping and pillaging of the earth. And
Right.
I'm not going to go any further. I think everyone kind of gets an idea, but
This is some
that
serious horse shit, man.
That article is going to be in the description, as is the article that Brooke shared as well. If you guys want to read through it further, but it is just yeah, everyone. Going to Mars is being space Trump, grabbing it by the pussy, raping and pillaging, and it's only because I have a penis. If I didn't have a penis, I mean, what they're saying is basically, if women were in power, we're not going to Mars.
Right, because they don't colonize, right? They don't
rape and pillage.
Reach out and grab planets by the pussy. It's just so much safer for the planets if women are in charge.
And once again, I'm not saying women shouldn't or can't be in charge. They can definitely be in charge. But just because a man wants to go to Mars, wanted to go to the moon. Well, see, here's the thing. She even distinguishes going to the moon as a sort of, out of the space race and everything that we had back in the 50s and 60s. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. No, but this is colonization. This is
right.
us, wanting to rape more planets.
I mean, it is colonization in the sense that we're moving people there. It's not the same thing as colonialism, which is the kind of parallel that I think she's trying to draw, because she did talk about, spreading out and, oppressing people. There are no fucking people on Mars, at least none that we know about, right? It's a big fucking rock, right?
And it's, as far as we know, it's not capable of supporting any life.
Yeah. I mean, probably microbacteria or something along those lines, right? So it's like complaining that you're going to mine or set up people in, on a mountaintop colony or something like that. It's there's nothing to it. There's nobody there. There's no reason anybody should have an argument about that. And if people are willing to go, what's the problem, right? So I
Right.
mean, to bring it back to these gendered power structures and all this other nonsense. I mean, they're really admitting that we should just, if women were in charge, we'll just stagnate. Nothing would be done, and that we would never expand, we would never grow, we would never push the limits of human achievement and advancement. Kind of sounds shitty, It's like
So what you're saying is, I'm just kidding. There was a picture that I found, and I think if you Google it, you probably be able to find it. Where apparently the NASA scientists that were controlling one of the rovers up there on Mars, they had it like follow a certain path on the ground, and then they like went up like to a higher area to see the tracks they left behind, and I guess it left like a penis or something.
oh really?
Like the rover operators basically using the wheels on the rover drew a penis on Mars. So I guess on a small level,
That is awesome.
I'm
Draws
probably gonna
penis on the
Google
red planet.
exactly.
There it is. Look at that, man.
Okay,
Talk about human achievement.
you got to screen share that, or are we getting
I got
demonetized?
it's video. Yeah, I've got the video. I need to find a picture of it. Hold on.
But so, and here's the thing too. So they want to talk about applying their logic. Let's just explore the logic of this article. Raping and pillaging a planet. Okay, so maybe there's microbial life, and we shouldn't rape and pillage that. We shouldn't interfere with that. We shouldn't interfere with its development. We shouldn't try to kill it, by putting our big penis buildings all over all over Mars with our colonies.
Right.
And this is just me being petty, probably. So what about those clumps of microbial or micro cells in a womb? Should we rape and pillage and
Right.
kill that?
This is an abortion argument.
Yeah, we can talk about it. No, we're not going to talk too much about that.
No, I mean this is a very very relevant point in terms of the female imperative and what we're seeing from modern feminism. Now, full disclosure, I am not on board with the full modern day rendition of feminism. I don't think many people are. But the modern rendition of feminism is anti-intellectual, anti-science, anti-advancement, and it seems to stand opposed to pretty much everything that makes humanity exceptional. And again, people have this misconception about the planet, and even a lot of the greenies and the tree huggers seem to think this, that humanity is a virus. Like I don't know if you have him on Facebook, but I think we have a mutual friend, lives in Miami, and he put out recently this thing.
He's a musician.
Yeah, and he put out this thing about a quote from Nietzsche.
Did you see
about
my comment on
humanity as
that?
a virus. I think you did comment on that. Yeah, maybe that's why I saw it. Right. And yeah, so humanity is a plague and we're killing the planet and all this good stuff. Okay. Here's the flaw in that argument. The planet was not hospitable to human life early on. Right? People seem to have this idea that, oh wow, it was this great, paradise, and oh yeah, we were all just living in the garden and all this kind of stuff. No, the earth was a violent environment where you were either eaten, drowned, struck by lightning, burned in fires. Talk about disease, bacteria. Life expectancy was 40 years, if that, etc., etc., etc. The earth naturally, in its natural state, is inhospitable. It is not conducive to human life. And we, humanity, through innovation and technology, have tamed the planet and made it livable for human beings. We have people that live up in the north, up in the cold, people who live in the heat through air condition and other things. And we have now tamed the planet to the point where we can survive. That's
Right.
a very different premise than suggesting it was great and now we've made it terrible. No, it was fucking terrible, and we've now made it livable. That's
Called
the argument.
terraforming.
It's called fucking terraforming, right?
Yeah.
And nobody, all of these greenies and all of these, oh yeah, humanity is a virus and stuff like that. None of them understand that the earth was inhospitable. It was a death trap. Living on this planet didn't guarantee any kind of life. And because of technology and all of our intervention, we have made it livable. We have tamed it and all this other good stuff. Not saying we don't have problems like pollution and other things like that. But these people are delusional if they think it was great before we started to intervene. It's just crazy.
Did you remember that movie After Earth with Will Smith and his son?
Yes, that's an M. Night Shyamalan piece of garbage. But yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
But they showed, remember, they go to Earth, and they're like, it's Earth 1,000 years after mankind left.
Yeah.
And it is
everything growed over, and
everything wants to kill you.
Yeah, exactly that. That was the Earth. That is what we came into, right? There was a reasons we were hunter gatherers and other things like that is because we had to defend ourselves. We had to develop means to protect ourselves from the Earth, right? So yeah, this thinking that we are the virus and stuff like that. No, we've cured the planet, right? In many ways,
So,
not saying that we don't have problems, but
we
have cured it. And
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's it.
Oh, yeah, I got to work on my. We have our discussions, but I got to work on my communication too. No, I just remembered on that conversation back with this individual. Basically, I was like pointing out. My comment was, said, humanity is a virus, and people were kind of, basically saying, well, what do you call something that basically sucks life out of something and replicates rapidly, and all this, and it's like, oh, that's like a virus, like. Basically likening our behavior and our patterns to a virus, which is not wrong. Right. To a point. And I'm like, well, so I just, started off with, so we should all just kill ourselves then.
Right. We should just cure the earth of the human, right?
Yeah, kill everyone. And he's like, no, I'm not saying that. But what's your real question? So he sees I'm trying to like start something, like get him to think. And I'm trolling. And I said, well, what is the point of this post? Is this to affect positive or negative change? I said, what are you really trying to say? I said, I don't see being positive by starting from a standpoint of mankind is this illness. Like, to start a conversation to affect positive change, you should start with, okay, so here's why we suck. I think it's more, it should, like, everyone knows, even in any environment, when you try to correct something and help someone get better, you say, okay, you're doing a really good job in these areas. Yeah, here's how you can be even better.
Right, exactly.
It's like, hey, you're doing a really good job with, technology, with eco-friendly technology. You're doing really good with, giving people such a good living, being comfortable, generating essentially areas that are safe for humans to live, free from the effects of nature wanting to kill you. Like, hey, these are some really good things, but at the cost of the environment, you have pollution, you have garbage, you have all this stuff. We could improve on that, So you come up and say, hey, we could be better at recycling, we could be better at renewable energies. There's things you can improve on. Not just be like, it's not like, all right, so y'all are a fucking disease that's killing the planet.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it all comes from the wrong premise, and I mean, I don't know what's going on personally. I think he's had some disappointments and other things, but yeah, it's again, you know, a lot, even the leftists, the environmentalists and stuff like that. I mean, you've seen those videos where they tell people to what was it, to ban dihydrogen monoxide,
Oh yeah,
right,
yeah.
which is H2O water, right? And again, is people just have these weird ideas, and people actually signed this petition to ban water, right? Nobody knows what they're doing, right? So I mean, this is what's going on. Is that again, people are not really informed. They don't really know what's going on, but yet they're making these drastic policy decisions, or at least campaigning for very drastic policy decisions. And again, more locally amongst our friends and stuff like that, a lot of them are just making these statements. They really don't know why. It's just, you know, mafios. You know, it's them lashing out in some capacity.
Right.
And I mean, you need that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being emotional and expressing yourself and stuff like that. But you know, when confronted on it, you know, if you can't really explain or back up what it is you're saying, maybe you should reconsider your views. You know,
Hmm.
I would have loved to know what he was actually thinking. That the same guy that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So strippers at Chinese funerals.
Yeah, well, Amos, you have to fill me in on this because you know my Asian culture card is kind of faded. Um, I mean, is this a thing? Is this like a thing? Where am I? All right, let's see.
See, I'm having a hard time. Like the stuff we talk about is all fun and all, but then I'm like wondering like if there's any validity. And I tried to ask like the next person that I know that is in the area or near the area. So I'm like, well, I can't send my mom this shit.
Why
Like,
not?
hey mom, there's a bunch of strippers at this funeral. Is that real? Hey mom,
Well, apparently
there's
China they're
uh,
trying to crack down on it.
right, and I'm like, hey mom, there's this really hot lady working at a street vendor in downtown Taipei. Do you know anything about it? Remember that one?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like,
I, I I totally thought you should have asked her about that. I think, and like she saved the family or some shit, right? Because the store was going out of business until they hired her or something.
exactly. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
I mean, oh my god, that was a great one. But I mean, that's universally known. Sex sells. I mean, the whole reason we have the brand Hooters is totally fine, right? It's though it goes back to the whole thing about the grid girls and these women that come out for the Grand Prix and these sporting events and stuff like. People aren't stupid. We know what's going on. But yeah, I mean this, however, let me pull it back up. Where did I close it off? This, however, is a little different. No, that's not it. 1 second. Right. Okay. Here we go. Right. So I mean, Amos, you've got to find out if this is really going on, man. Like, I don't
Let me
have
get it.
the Asian cred, right?
Right. Click
Um,
present to everyone.
there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, you got it, right? It's up, right?
Yep.
Right. So
Excuse me.
our good friends over in China are vowing to crack down on funeral strippers. So apparently this is a thing. I don't actually know very much about it. It's the first time hearing about it. But they're hiring these strippers to boost the number of attendees as a way of honoring the deceased. Right. And there we go. There we go. You know, she loved you long time.
Oh
You know,
God.
I
Oh, and then
guess.
there's the guy's picture in the back.
Guys, what does that say, Amos? What does that say? Can you read that?
Uh, something. I mean, it's very standard sort of.
We
If you
honor
want
the
to
dead.
honoring the phrases that would honor the dead, sayings that would honor like
Right.
kind of like a rest in peace, similar uh, phrases like that.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough, right?
yeah, yeah. So I think is he wearing a communist hat?
It's kind of blurred out. It looks green. It could be.
Yeah,
It
what are
could
those
be.
commie hats? Oh, geez.
It looks, yeah, it might be. It could be like the thing right here. It's not clear enough to really tell. But I mean, she's working it, man. Look at those arms. You know, I love that there's a big hole in the ceiling and the disco ball. This looks like is it like a container?
It's like
It's
a
like a
tin.
shipping
It's like a tin
container.
shed sort of thing. Probably
Yeah,
outside, some sort of like an outside venue. So these
yeah.
are very
Next to like the
common.
speakers over here.
Yep, yep.
So yeah, so
China.
China's launched has launched a large crackdown on funeral strippers. The Ministry of Culture said it will target obscene, pornographic, and vulgar performances at funerals and weddings.
Yes. Weddings.
And weddings. I didn't see that in the last article. Um, it followed reports of the state-run Global Times newspaper about roaring crowds applauding and cursing at women performances at funerals. Let me just get this ad. There we go. There's another one. Beijing cracks down on uncivilized funeral strippers. The tabloid claims that they're sauntered into crowds and rubbed men's crotches while occasionally reminding them not to take pictures. The culture minister set out a hotline to offer monetary rewards for those who report funeral misdeeds in 19 cities in Henan. Well, these are all the cities, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to butcher these words, right? Those are the provinces.
Don't you dare.
Um, some rural communities in China believe hiring performers can increase attendances at funerals, and with high attendance seen as a way of honoring the deceased. So that's it. It's a cultural thing. More people at the funeral, the more honored the person was in their passing and this sort of thing. And in a bid to show off their disposable income and boost numbers, some households pay out more than their annual income for strippers, but also actors, singers, and comedians. Beijing first banned funeral strippers back in 2015 after 2 cases where erotic dancers stage obscene performances, whatever that is. Can't imagine. At the funeral, they're not going to pronounce that. 2 strippers wearing revealing clothing danced on stage at a public square in our village at night, as eyewitnesses said at the time. Authorities also arrested 6 exotic dancers at a funeral of an elderly resident in, again, not going to butcher the province. 5 people were detained in, right, not going to say it. I mean, what is an obscene perform? I mean, have you been to strip clubs, right? Or you're not going to confess that on the
air? So obscene. I mean, you gotta still. I mean, China is still a communist country, very much so in a lot of ways.
Yes.
So the idea of obscenity, it comes down to, with your cultural minister, it just comes down to pretty much anything that is outside of the norm of sort of common, decent Chinese proper women. That whole framework. Anything outside of that,
Right.
strippers, dancers, all this thing, it gets to be like out of line for them. I mean, right. Imagine if we had like a right-leaning cultural ministry here in the States. Well, we would ban pornography, and we would, they would probably try to institute some sort of moral exercise to sort of have people follow maybe a more Christian-based. There's all sorts of things that could happen, but a cultural ministry, when you think of it in a communist country, is really just censorship. It's really sort of thought policing. Maybe not to the degree that we've seen in the last century with hardcore stuff that happens in some countries. I mean, which still happens.
Sure.
In places like China, it would probably just be sort of a somewhat of a just a sort of a censorship and monitoring of how the citizens are behaving. If they consider it to be indecent because it doesn't line up with their certain values that the government would like the people to have. I mean, having strippers over kind of pushes the bounds of being proper, hardworking Chinese citizens. So,
right. Children of the revolution.
Exactly. So yeah, you gotta get that out there. But you just go about not even 100 miles over to Taiwan, and it's Western values and everything.
Right. Strippers everywhere.
Exactly. Not that
I've been out to Thailand. I've been out to Thailand, and there's no such thing as too obscene.
Exactly.
Too obscene a performance. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
you can go to Singapore where it's legal.
What's legal?
Prostitution and everything.
Oh, prostitution. Okay, yeah, good. I mean,
Uh,
where do you fall on the whole prostitution argument then?
in the interest of real feminism, in empowering women to be autonomous to their body in a way that I agree with. So, not abortion. I don't believe abortion is a exercise of body autonomy. But if they want to be autonomous and make their own decisions on what they do with their body to make money in whatever capacity that is not harmful to others or themselves, I'd say. I mean, themselves goes. I mean, it's just really like we'll just not in that capacity, I should say, because people I think have a right to, if they drink or smoke that's not good for them, they have that right. However,
Right.
if they're making consensual transactions to do what they want with their body, go for it.
Right.
That should be one of the, not like the epitome, but that should be definitely a thing that feminism should be going for if they want to believe in women empowerment. I mean, I don't hear any problems about like male prostitutes and male strippers, but you hear everything about female strippers and female prostitution and female porn stars too.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you want to talk about a wage gap, the female porn stars make worlds above what the men make in the industry.
And yet there is this whole feminism issue about what they call the sex worker and the oppression and all this, which I will not doubt that it definitely happens. Like there's ways you definitely want to combat that. I think a lot of industries that are kind of in that gray area are going to have problems. But in the interest,
I don't think it's called oppression, though. I think, all right, there are certain stigmas and stereotypes that they'll have to confront as a sex worker, but I don't necessarily think that's oppression.
Well, if you want to talk about how sex work goes into even the realms of, they can be connected to the realms of like people talk about human trafficking, stuff like that.
Right. Well, that's a violation,
Definitely. So you need to really like put a line down between people who are consensually engaged in these activities versus the people who are being pulled into that and raised in that environment.
Correct.
Because I think the lines get blurred when people try to push a certain ideology and they don't try to distinguish that.
Correct. I think you're right.
So in the interest of equality, then, what about the men?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's the complete double standard, and you see it all the time. Like, I don't know if you've been watching any of the Winter Olympics. No, it's in Pyongyang in South Korea. All right,
but Pyeongchang, not Pyongyang. Pyongyang is in North Korea.
Oh, is it Pyeongchang? Okay, my mistake. Yeah. Right, that's true. Sorry, yeah, I did that. That's actually right. So there was this whole article that was put out by one of those ass cancer propaganda outlets. I can't remember which one, and it talked about the men luge athletes. Now, anybody who doesn't know, in winter sports, it's basically you ride on a sled, you lie down on the sled, and you go down this ramp, and it's called luge. And these are skin tight kind of outfits and stuff like that. And you could see like the imprint of the guy's junk,
Right.
And the whole article was basically, gold medals should go out to these men for their bulge, right? Objectifying men is fine. It's totally fine, right? But when it comes to women, oh my God, no, you objectified me and all this other bullshit,
Could you imagine, like, gold medal should go to Lindsey Vonn just because she's got such a hot body?
Right. I mean, that was the joke about
head would explode.
Well, when they had the Winter Olympics in Brazil and they had the oh God, what was it?
Oh, was it the Summer Olympics?
The volleyball, the Summer Olympics, yeah. And they had the volleyball, the beach volleyball team.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, the feminists were going ape shit of these young, fit women jumping up and down, hitting the ball back and forth. And I mean, it was so bad. I think like Will Ferrell, the actor, tweeted out. Um, I don't know if you know it, but
I know the
he's like, "Oh
tweet.
my god, yeah, there's been an emergency. Um, it's been a thing of the Olympics. There's been an emergency and stuff like that. But the doctors say I should be able to use my wrist again, like in a couple of days,
Well, then there
right?
was the whole thing with the sort of the American volleyball teams and the Middle Eastern volleyball teams. How they
Right,
would have
the girls with the hijabs.
the full body. I don't know, the burkini they called it.
Right, the burkini. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, kind of this like, oh look, you know, they're modest, and it's like, yeah, oppression.
Yeah, they'd be stoned to death if they didn't wear those things. And again, they don't. You don't pick the clothes as the athletes. You wear the team picks the outfits and the whole thing. Um, I don't know if you saw the shit that went on with the Norwegian team and their jumpers or sweaters, right? So they had a bunch of sweaters that were picked for the team, and one of them happened, as I say, Viking history and stuff like that. They had some of the runes from the Viking age, and one of them happens to be an arrow that showed up on some Hitler uh, outfit, and it's part of some far right extremist group. This arrow symbol, and people are looking at this thing and saying, "Oh, it's some connection to Nazis and all this other shit." I thought it actually looked pretty good. Actually, I looked it up online. It's like $250 for this jumper. But yeah, that's a thing.
What is wrong with just I don't know, man. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the genetic fallacy is a real thing, right?
yeah.
Where else have we seen that? Where somewhere else I've seen recently where somebody was saying, "Well, oh, well, look, Hitler did this, and this person does this, therefore this person equals Hitler."
Well,
And
there's the
it's just a
meme
genetic fallacy.
of that nonsense. Like Hitler drank water and I drink water, therefore, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah. It's I remember like somebody was saying that about the guy from the KKK. I don't know who his name is. He endorsed Donald Trump, and somebody was kind of saying, "Well, what does it feel like to vote for the same guy that so to vote for the guy that was voted for and supported by the KKK?" And again, it goes back to this fucking genetic fallacy. It's like, well, the KKK people in the KKK do a lot of human things. I'm sure they drink, they breathe, they wear clothes. I'm sure they have sex. Are you going to make that analogy for every other thing that these people do and basically call it all taboo? I mean, for fuck's sake, right?
Right, right. Yeah, reasonable discourse has gone out the window. Um, but yeah, the yeah that I unfortunately haven't been watching it, but heard about it from here and there. The Winter Olympics just isn't as popular as the Summer Olympics. I mean,
I
here in
mean, no,
Minnesota, everyone
exactly.
is going nuts over curling.
Right. That's the thing with the metal something disc or
The
something.
stone with the handle.
Right, right. And they scrub the glass or the ice, sorry. They sweep the ice or something.
They're basically trying to smooth it out to help it move faster, slower. Because the ice is not 100%. So there, anyways, it's I didn't even know. Apparently, Minnesota is really famous for curling. I didn't grow up doing any curling, but I heard like, oh yeah, there's all these like community centers and gyms that you can go to like do it. And I'm like, how do you get good at this? It's basically it's there's a game we play called bocce ball. Have you heard of it?
I've heard the name, but I don't know what it is.
What it is you have like a small white ball. So you play it like it's a yard game. So you have a small white ball, and you throw it a distance that everyone else can throw these bigger what you call bocce balls to get. It's you basically throw the white ball somewhere. That's the target, and you get
Okay.
your color. You see, different colors. Teams have different colors. You throw it from the same spot to try to get the closest to the target, and you can knock other people's balls away from the target. Well, this is pretty much just bocce ball on ice.
Right. Okay.
A yard game we play. I mean, definitely more complicated and there's higher levels, but it's just, you're just throwing this thing, sliding down the ice. Pretty funny.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, no, I think it's such a, it's both a fun. I mean, the Olympics is always fun, but at the same time, it's also kind of like the events they have are pretty interesting. Like you have the stuff like the skating, the laps they do, the ski jump, stuff like that. I think that stuff's like pretty cool. And then you have like, people that you have curling, you have laps of people doing laps of cross country skiing. So people are on skis on a flat track, skiing in laps, and I'm like, when are we ever going to use this?
Right.
Skiing, you go down a hill.
Yeah, cross country skiing. Actually, I think Trinidad and Tobago actually has 2 athletes in the Winter Olympics, and they are for cross country. Yeah, 2, and I think they're both competing in cross country skiing.
I think I told you. So the Summer Olympics had 1 athlete.
One
Summer Olympics athlete.
From where?
No, from Taiwan.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, that's what. Yeah.
1 in swimming.
There you go. There you go. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, can't call them Taiwan though.
No, they're what, part of
They call them Taipei, China, and they use they don't use the flag. They use a logo that I think they use the Republic of China logo, like an older one that's less defining.
Right. Okay.
But no, so yeah, there's that. But one thing I wanted to kind of talk about too, since we kind of talked about the Chinese and funerals and strippers. Is a quick little recap. That I had one of our guests, so I'm going to be starting. I think this will be the best way to kind of do it without getting too far off from the shows. We're going to be doing. We'll be having guests that we'll be doing talks with, discussions. Trying to see, if we should have more of a discussion format or more of like an interview format, just to see how that goes. The first one I had was, and you've seen it, Brooke, is on was last week Thursday. Was it Thursday? I forgot what.
Yeah, it was later after my stream.
Right. So yeah, Brooke and I did our weekly stream still, 11 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock I did the stream with a YouTube channel called Hapa Supremacy. Hapa Supremacy is comprised of a couple, both half Asian. It's Nicolette and Shane, but Nicolette, she goes by Nico. I didn't call her Nicolette, but Nico and Shane, they live in Dallas, and they run their channel Hapa Supremacy. And basically, just got to know them, talked to them a little bit beforehand. And then we had our talk mainly about what we just said was Hapa issues. Hapa being the term used to describe mainly half Asian people. So like myself, Shane is half Korean. Nico is a quarter Filipino and a quarter Chinese. Nice. So one of her parents was half, and the other half being white. And just talked about how there's the Hapa subreddit, which is a complete mess of SJW cancer, and we talked a bit about why they behave that way, how kind of talking about their upbringing, growing up being Hapa, because it's such a weird thing. You're from both halves of the world, and you are identified for the one outside of where you are, if you know what I'm saying. So here I'm Asian. In Taiwan, I'm a white person.
Right. There you go.
I'm never fully so there tends to be a real, because I think a lot of people growing up tend to have some sense of identity growing up that is because they're well, they're of the race or a mixture of races that is commonly found in the country they're in. Now, I'm not going to start going on talking about nationalism, some alt-right nonsense. I'm just saying this is just how people are. You grow up in America as a white person, you tend to just grow up in that culture, in that identity. And you do have things that make you yourself that are not necessarily American things.
Sure.
But for the most part, that your foundation is based upon sort of a very cohesive, sort of homogenous. Both your parents are of the same race, having you, and it's like, hey, things go pretty smooth for the most part. There's no real clash. Well, being a person who's HAPA, you grow up and you have American, or white cultures mixed with Asian culture, especially if you lived in both of the countries too. Then you have a real major clash, and of course the having a hard time of really sort of fitting in with the people groups, because believe it or not, even not that kids are conditioned, but I think it's just it's a human thing to recognize difference, and it's not necessarily racism, it's just difference. So it's harder to fit in. There's definitely racism, I will not deny that. Like, I definitely experienced racism from both Taiwanese people and Americans. That just happens.
Right.
Was it ever sort of malevolent, evil racism, like they were going to kill me? No, it was just more of just very
people being stupid.
Yeah, people being dicks and stuff. Yeah, so it just happens, and how people react to that, how they are sort of challenged through that crucible, if you want to call it. How they come out of it really determines how they go on with their life. And you see a lot of these people in the subreddit that are just feeding themselves this victim narrative that is so prevalent in American society, because a lot of them, first off, don't, to my understanding, not many really are going between the countries.
Right.
They're mainly here. So they're being fed this victim narrative. They're believing that because they're trying to identify with the victim narrative because they're told that their whiteness is racist, but their Asianness is like the fringe category in person of color. So they have to adopt this sort of, oppressed and whatever. And then they're then fed this lie that they're, in most cases which is funny, where the man is white and the woman is Asian and their parents, that their father basically had some sort of Asian racist fetish that led to their birth. So now they're not only believing they're a victim by having half a race that is making them Asian and oppressed, they're also an abomination born out of racist white supremacy fetish. So
is that the whole thing about they feel guilty because their mother isn't attracted to them? Have you read that?
No. Holy shit.
No, they basically say, so they say, well, because it's like if it's the Asian, it's the white male and the Asian female, and the child comes out obviously looking half Asian, they say that they feel rejection from the mother because the mother is not attracted to their own kind, sort of thing. So there's this disconnect. I don't know if you read that in the subreddit, but I think I read a whole thing on. I just
saw this whole thing about basically if it's a white man with an Asian woman, it's instantly white supremacist, Asian fetish nonsense. Just it is evil. But if it's an Asian man and a white woman, well, then it's okay.
Right.
So you've got this really messed up sort of abomination of ideas of white supremacy with racism, with sexism, with victim mentality, all just going around in circles. And you have a child growing up in this, especially the Hapas that are born today or younger than me in today's world. You have a real identity crisis. Right. I mean, I thought I had some and the thing is, it's very common, very easy to kind of feel out of place, like for any HAPA person. So it's just as I like really read into some of this stuff, and I talked to Nico and Shane about it. They were like, "Yeah, it's we're yeah." And so I asked them, different views, like what do they think about, do you try to stay with one or the other culture, or do you try to bring them together? And I think, and they agreed, it's you want to try to like bring the best of both. So me
Right.
being half white, half Asian, like I'll eat fried rice and I'll eat hamburgers and French fries
Right.
without feeling any sort of misplaced,
Any gender guilt?
right. I can feel like, hey, I
I
just
guess
get
no,
to
it's
eat.
racial guilt. Yeah.
Right. I get to enjoy more kinds of foods. Plus, I just enjoy ethnic, diversity in my food in general. Now, does that make
Right.
say I have some sort of ethnic fetish by saying that?
Are you fetishizing your Asian
Yeah,
self? Is your white self
exactly.
molesting your Asian self?
I,
Like,
I I I told
what's
them, I
going on?
said my half of me is telling the other half to build railroads. And, um, not even so we talked a little bit about this because you and I talked about this, and I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this again to clarify. Um, Dating as a half Asian person.
Okay.
Um, so I think I mentioned to you a while back when I was on dating websites, I would get attention from black women,
Yes.
and you said that that tends to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, OK Cupid, which is I think is the world's biggest online dating site. They do a lot of research and reports every year about
Mhm.
dating demographics, who women are responding to, who men are responding to, who's interested in who, and stuff like that. And actually, the girl Nico, actually, she talked about that, and I think she probably saw the same videos that I saw, or at least read some of the reports. I think one of them, like one of these people, actually did a video kind of showing the interlink, and it turns out that in the strata of women, black women were kind of the least popular for attention, right? I
Really?
think the top was actually Middle Eastern women, and then it was like Latino women, white women, Asian women, then was like black women or something. I might have that completely mixed up. And so what it is again, because I mean, again, culture and stuff like that, everybody's kind of intermixing and stuff like that. There is a real cross section of black women that are really kind of, they don't have a lot of, they can't date within their own circles because there are not a lot of black men kind of coming into this arena, so they have to move out, and they're moving out onto everybody. Right, like black women will respond to everybody and everybody, right? I'm not saying that they're promiscuous, I'm just saying that they're not particularly very picky, and they get the attention, they try to get the attention of everybody, like most women. And I think on the male side, it was, I can't remember, I think the bottom rung was black men and Asian men were pretty low down. Um, and I think I can't remember who the top was, either white men or Latino men or something like that. Anyway, but there's a good video about the whole thing, and as I say, black women are very very open to meeting. They don't hold racial stereotypes as strongly. They don't hold um, the kind of segregated mindset. Like generally, most people will date within their own race, but where there is the cross section, the black women tend to be the most transcendent of the ethnic groups.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting. It's interesting.
And
Like
then
I get a lot of attention from that, so
right, and
you're
then
in good company.
I asked them like how they met, like if they tried dating websites. Well, they haven't. So they met each other
Yeah,
through
they met on
Twitter.
Twitter, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like,
I
okay,
mean,
do I gotta meet someone on Twitter then?
I see like what's his name? Derek Blackman, some black guy. He got
Yeah,
a girlfriend through Twitter as well. He got some kind of emo lingerie model chick.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. So Keep up the Twitter thing, man.
You too, bro. I mean, you're the one with the subscribers
Yeah,
and the follower count. You know.
yeah. I'm working my way up. I mean, I've got a girlfriend now. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, in terms of dating, like right now, it's really bad, especially with all the Me Too and psycho women out there. So my advice to a lot of people is meet somebody in a group activity that you're passionate about. Like
Right.
the online dating thing has gone to shit, right? Tinder has destroyed online dating, and as I say, all the women are trying to go for the top 20% of men. I'm too short to be in the top 20%, right? So I'm not getting a lot of action out here. I'm in London, 8 million people, 4 million women, and my Tinder didn't even click. I didn't get one hit on Tinder when I was out here, right? Because the women are spoiled for
So,
choice. They're just too many, like good men out here, right? So I'm not qualifying.
so what you're saying
So how
is
I
I'm
meet
in.
people, I don't know where you're at. I can speak for myself, but so my advice, like some of the guys I hang out with and stuff like that, go to events, right? So we have like Internations out here. We got the Libertarian meetup. The Liberalists, the Sargon's group has started up. I wouldn't be here for that meeting, but when I get back, hopefully, the end of March, I will be going to that. The trading group, there's a group out here. They trade stocks and commodities. I'll be going to that. So I want to be going to all of these events, right, to make friends. I'm not looking for a girl, as I say. I've got a girlfriend now, but as I say, to meet people and stuff like that. And I recommend everybody, if you're looking for somebody, get involved in some kind of group. That's where a lot of people are meeting, their significant others. So it's good
Right.
advice.
So what you're saying is I'll be meeting someone at the Ben Shapiro event next week.
Yeah, yeah. If you see some cute girl out there, give her some day game, Go get Rush's book on day game.
Right, right.
I think it's there's bang and then there's day bang.
Oh, jeez. So,
So maybe get day bang and you'll be good.
right. Another thing, real quick, is that so yeah, Brooke will be in Trinidad. And then I'll be. I'm actually going to be out of town for a few days, so I don't know if I'll be able to get a connection to do the stream. But Monday for sure, I will be going to the Ben Shapiro event going on here at the University of Minnesota. He'll be there speaking. I took half the day off from work to go up there and do some filming of the protesters. We're already expecting plenty of people to be protesting, as well as attending the event. So I'll be, of course, wearing the Kyrgyzstan hat, dressed for the weather too, and got a nice little camera to take out there. We're gonna do some filming. I don't know if I'll get to talk to anyone. But definitely we'll be filming and kind of showing what's all going on down there. There's definitely lots that's going to be going on since these. It's already becoming a controversy. There's already the administration is already being caught with their pants down, stonewalling these student groups to organize this event without any issues, because they're just creating more and more issues for them. Protecting our students because Ben Shapiro is a security risk. This short little man, this short little Jewish man that talks way too fast for his own good and doesn't swear or anything. Is
pretty
with
much an Orthodox Jewish guy.
Yeah, is just a security threat to the campus of the University of Minnesota. So we got to put him on an outside venue. That's what they're doing now. Is they're putting him on campus, but on the outskirts of campus, in a small venue that is you can get to it. It's not the most student friendly spot because bus routes and roads don't converge there. So it's just dumb. But I'll be there. Some people that I know. Some Facebook friends that I've been in contact with, even some people from my school might even be going, my high school, which is weird. Because I kind of advertise like, hey, I'm going to this event. And then people were like, oh, we want to go too. And I gave him, the information to get there, but because of the limited space, not everyone is getting to go. So,
Right. Sure.
but
That'd be
yeah,
good. It'd be really good.
yep,
I think we discussed it briefly last week that you were going to this, and you had your question, which I thought was a good question. So
yeah. I don't want to
hopefully
spoil
it'll
it
work
yet.
out well.
I don't want to
No, no,
spoil the
no. You'll
question.
get your video clip and
Exactly. I
hopefully
got
record it, and yeah.
it. And also, we're also going to be having more guests on. So, like I said, with the sort of how we're going to do the guest thing is we're still having the weekly streams, being we're on number 14 here. I'm doing what I'm calling Shitlord Preacher Special Edition. That's where we're having the guests. You probably saw that, Brooke, on how I named it. So there's going to be like sort of a separate show, I guess, where we're just talking to guests that we have on. And
Sure.
Hapa Supremacy has extended an invitation for Brooke and myself to be on their stream as well.
Awesome.
So that'll be interesting. We're going to have, because usually there's just the two of them and one person, but it's going to be 4 of us all together in a stream. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
As well as I'm talking to a few other people that'll also be guests as well. So that's exciting to be coming up. But
excellent.
Awesome. So we're coming to the end. Anything you wanted to add, Brooke?
No, man, I think we did good. Go and see Black Panther and give us your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Countdown to Infinity Wars. I think I'm going to take a break after Infinity Wars. I'm kind of superheroed out. But yeah, no, it was good. I'm looking forward to talking to the Hapa Supremacy guys, and any of the other guests that you get on, man. I think that's really good. And as I say, I'll be out in Trinidad and Tobago for hopefully a month, maybe a little bit more. I'm hoping not. So if we could do stuff on your time zone, I will look forward to that. That would be pretty cool.
So, yeah, like and comment, subscribe to the video, guys, as well as follow Brooke and myself on Twitter. All the links are below, and subscribe to Brooke's channel. He is growing rapidly in subscriber count. Last I checked, should be hitting.
Yeah, I got like 125 just now, man. It's crazy.
You're probably gonna get hit
like
400.
Hit
400 by middle of next month, I'd say.
I have to do content. I haven't done anything. I've just been so busy with personal matters. But I got to start putting out some more content.
Right,
and
me too.
I probably would hit 400. Yeah, don't we all?
Don't we all?
But you see, I got to do long form content like streams, because I need to qualify. You need like the hours of viewing and all this other kind of nonsense.
Right.
All of my videos are like 7 minutes. So I got to do some long form stuff. So either a gaming something or do some streams or something. I got to think of it.
Exactly. Maybe you and I both should do like a gaming thing where we play like Civilization or something, or play some sort of game where
something.
Exactly.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
All
definitely.
right. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We have a viewer, and I've been trying to figure out who's the viewer. Is that you, Brooke?
Hi, viewer. I don't know. It might be.
Because I know I sent you a link, and then you clicked on it. I was wondering if maybe you left that window open on your end, so then it's showing us we have a viewer. I don't know, but anyways, thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, hi viewer. There's 2 viewers.
Did you check the chat? Check the chat.
I did check the chat. Yeah.
Did you get my message?
Yeah, there was the one of you saying gay, and then there was me saying who's watching. It's probably someone I know, since I put it up on Twitter, and it tweets again when I start the stream. So anyways, thanks everyone for joining us. Catch us again next Thursday. Hopefully we'll be able to do this, depending upon
probably wouldn't be, because I'll be traveling next Thursday. So
you will be. Okay,
maybe not next week.
So I'll be hopefully we'll get one of our guests in the in between then. So check out for that. Of course, everything is always put on the channel, so everyone can watch it later on. That's what we're really going for now, until we can get more people viewing. So thanks for watching, guys. We will see you guys later.